Ekitike has been bending over his rivals and making them call him Le Papi. So should we have him in our FPL teams for game week 18, or is it already too late? Welcome to FPL Sucks, but it does not suck as much as Van der Ven's tackles. In this video, our main question is, should we have Ekitike in our FPL team, or is there a better alternative available? I have built a crazy FPL datasheet full of statistics that will help us answer this question. First, we'll use it to look at Ekitike stats, and then 3 other players who could easily get more points over the next few weeks. So let's go straight into Ekitike. Now, if we look at this trend line graph showing Ekitike's form kind of from the season to date, that's STD, his last 4 game weeks and his last game, you can see he's on form. His big attempts scored, his shots in the box, all that nice jazz, it's going up. The last 4 game weeks, he's done very well indeed. However, against Spurs, they did make it difficult for him. He only got 1 shot in the box, and he got 1 big attempt, but he scored it. He managed to score it, all while just having an expected goal involvement of 0.3. So he's really been outperforming his expected goal involvement throughout the entire season already, but we will get to that in just a bit. If we look at his last 4 game weeks, Spurs, Brighton, Leeds, Sunderland, he's been averaging 4 shots in the box per 90 minutes, which is up from his actual season to date stats, as well as his minutes kind of slowly creeping up, as I suppose Slot is finally realizing that he should focus more on Ekitike instead of trying to shoehorn in Isak to try and get him to score a goal because he's worth £200 billion or whatever. And his overall point haul as well, his FPL points, has been tasty indeed. 12 points, FPL points per 90 minutes. On average, the last 4 games. That is absolutely crazy. So taking into account his recent decent form and looking at his next 4 games, who have they got? Liverpool, they've got Wolves, Leeds, Fulham and Arsenal. Now, those 3 games, Wolves, Leeds and Fulham, those are incredible fixtures coming up that Ekitike can definitely score some goals in. However, there are question marks. There are question marks for every player. But with Ekitike, a big question mark, which has been answered now, is he going to get the minutes? And the answer is most definitely yes. Now that Isak had that crunching tackle from Van der Ven and his legs broken, Ekitike, he's going to be starting and probably finishing the games as well, getting those 90 minutes, if not close to. So he's definitely going to be presented more opportunities against bottom of the table Wolves, as well as bottom half of the table Leeds and Fulham. So that's already looking like an attractive option. However, the second big question mark, which hasn't been answered, for me at least, is if you look at his benchmark, his season to date benchmark, you can see his expected goal involvement has been the same to the average forward in the game. Now that's including all the forwards that seen meaningful minutes, from the ones not scoring to the ones scoring a bucket load. Ekitike is bang on average, yet his actual goal involvement is well above average. He's well outperforming his expected goal involvement. Now, that could be because he's a future world-class player. He's going to be the next Messi and Ronaldo, and he's always just going to be slotting away these half chances or quarter chances. Or more likely, this is going to creep down a little bit. So he's definitely on form, but he could start missing a few chances as the rule of averages work, and you can kind of see his goal involvement and expected goal involvement start to level out, much like you can see on the right-hand side of this chart, where it does show, you know, the average forward as a whole in FPL. So that's the only big question mark I have for me. However, those 3 fixtures coming up next look absolutely mouth-watering. And I think that alone answers the question of, should you be getting Ekitike in your team? I'm certainly going to try. I mean, he's pricey now. I mean, he's close to 9 million. So it's going to be a struggle to kind of shoehorn him in there. But if you can do it, on paper, it's certainly looking like a sensible option. However, if you can't do it or you don't want to do it, don't worry about it. I have 3 other options for your consideration, and not bad options at that. But before I go on to the first alternative to Ekitike, if you can remember to like and subscribe to the channel for future videos just like this, I'd very much appreciate it. So who is the first alternative available? He is a man on the form of his life. It is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, I can't remember the goal streak he's on. 6 goals now in a row? And then the last game against Crystal Palace, he scored 2 goals. He is most definitely on form. And he's averaging close to 90 minutes as well the last 4 game weeks, and doesn't look to be slowing down. Who did he have in the last 4? He had Crystal Palace, Brentford, Liverpool and Chelsea. So not terribly easy fixtures at all, especially for a recently promoted team. Yeah, he's been bagging like on average 3 shots in the box per 90 minutes. His expected goal involvement is 1 per 90, and he's been slotting away his chances too. He's a quality player. He's a quality player for a great price under 6 million. However, let's look at his next games coming up. Sunderland, Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle. Now, those aren't terribly easy fixtures at all. But then again, are they that much more difficult than his last 4 games where he managed to score in each of those games? I don't think so. There's still definitely opportunities there. I mean, these next 4 teams, they haven't been great at keeping clean sheets recently. I'm not saying that Leeds are going to win those games, but they definitely have the opportunity to score, especially with Calvert-Lewin, who's, like I said, in the form of his life. He can slot away the chances that they're creating for him. And if we just take a gander at Calvert-Lewin's benchmark, his overall stats from the season as a whole, for a player who's under £6 million, he's outperforming the average forward. So he is cheaper than the average Premier League forward in FPL, yet he's outperforming in all the key statistics. He's driving the higher expected goal involvement and a higher actual goal involvement. So what an incredible option he is, regardless of perhaps maybe the teams he has playing up, even if he has difficult teams for his price. You know, for me, I have Thiago in my squad, and I bought him after seeing his statistics, which looked exactly like this before his price skyrocketed. So now I'm thinking I could just sell Thiago, maybe just get in Calvert-Lewin, and I'll have made a sweet profit, and I can use the money that I saved on him elsewhere in my squad. So if you didn't have the money to spend almost £9 million bringing Ekitike in your team, Calvert-Lewin is definitely a shout, with the only question mark right now being his upcoming fixtures. But now on to our second alternative to Ekitike. It is Nick Voltamade. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but I'm pronouncing it like that. And at the end of this video, I should just add, I'm going to be adding all the players, Ekitike, Nick Voltamade and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as well as the 4th player I'm going to mention afterwards. I'm going to compare them all, and we're going to have a granular insight into which is the best player for our teams in the next 4 game weeks. So stick to the end to watch that. Now, Nick, he has been reasonably average in the last 4 games. He's been kind of struggling to score. You can see his kind of form charts the last 4 games. His big attempts, shots in the box, big attempts scored, kind of started to slow down and average out to his season-to-date stats, where he was only averaging an expected goal involvement of 0.5, so half a goal expected every 90 minutes. However, in the last game against Chelsea, he completely blew that out of the water, with a 1.4 expected goal involvement, scoring 2 goals from that in his 72-minute appearance. And who have they got coming up? In my opinion, very favourable fixtures for Newcastle to bag some goals. Not necessarily win the games, but to definitely score against Man United, Burnley, Crystal Palace and Leeds. And if we look at Nick Voltamade's benchmark, his season-to-date player benchmark against other forwards in the games, he's a decent pick, certainly, for what, 7.3 million I think he is. He outperforms the average forward in FPL, driving a higher expected goal involvement and a higher actual goal involvement. So again, if you didn't have the money to bring in Ekitike and you wanted someone a little bit cheaper, Nick Voltamade, with his slightly better fixtures than Leeds have with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Nick Voltamade, he is a great option for you to choose from. So let's move on to the final alternative to Ekitike. But before I do, remember, at the end of this video, all the 4 players that I mentioned, I'm going to have in a table showing their key stats, a direct comparison to make it easier for us to decide who might be a better fit for our teams the next 4 game weeks. So stay tuned to see that. Now, the final player to recommend is Ollie Watkins. Now, don't close the video now. Oh, whoa. Okay, this is a bit left field, all right? He has obviously been underperforming to what his actual potential is and what he's actually been performing in the last couple seasons. But his performances are definitely trending in a positive direction. I think he got, in his last 4 games, he got 4 goal contributions, so 2 assists and 2 goals. Shots in the box in the last 4 games have increased by 38%. His big attempts has increased by 73%, so he's definitely getting better. When his last 4 games, they weren't necessarily the easiest, with Man United and Arsenal and Brighton in the mix. So there's definitely an uptick in his form, yet perhaps not that great for a player who's priced at 8.5 million. Though his next game week against Chelsea, and Chelsea, they haven't been fantastic at keeping out the goals, so definitely keep an eye on Ollie Watkins, see how he performs. If he continues this trend upwards, then the future game weeks against Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, he could most certainly become an option towards easier fixtures. However, if we do look at his season-to-date statistics against the average forward, doesn't make for pretty viewing. His expected goal involvement and his actual goal involvement are well below the average forward for the season in FPL so far. So Ollie Watkins, although the season as a whole hasn't been fantastic, the last few games, he has started to slowly become that player we all know he really is inside. And now let's put all these 4 players into a table and compare and see which one might be best for our team going forward. So we got Ekitike, Watkins, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Nick Voldemade. I've cherry-picked out perhaps the key overview metrics that we want to see in our player. Now, this is taking into account the last 4 game weeks, and remember, these are per 90-minute averages. Every 90 minutes, what have we seen in the last 4 game weeks from these players? So you can see on the left-hand column here, we can see their average minutes per game, the shots in the box per 90, big attempts per 90, and the big attempts scored, and then on to expected goal involvement, actual goal involvement, and then obviously the key section here, FPL points per 90 minutes, and then breaking down those points, what were the bonus points, and then maybe a little handy metric here, but nothing to dwell on too much. This is the points per million. So the actual player price and how many points they got, which one is kind of more valuable in that aspect. But of course, it doesn't matter so much, but it is a nice additional metric to consider. And then in theory, the players in this table who have the better metrics are going to be the better picks for our teams going forwards. But it's important to take into account the last 4 games they played and then the next 4 games they've got coming up. Were the last 4 games really easy and the next 4 games really hard? That's something we need to take into consideration. So immediately you can see that Ekitike has got 6 out of these 11 metrics in his favor. He has been getting the most shots in the box, the highest goal involvement, and of course the main thing, the most points as well. 12 points on average per 90 minutes. Insane. However, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has got 4 out of these 11 key metrics tied down. He's obviously much cheaper at the moment than Ekitike. He drives up higher minutes, but remember, if we spoke about Ekitike, his minutes are likely to increase now that Isak is definitely injured for probably a long period of time as well with a broken leg. Though his actual shots in the box, big attempts scored, they're not much lower than Ekitike for his much lower price. And perhaps something to consider more, his past games perhaps have been a little bit, been more difficult, I would say, than Liverpool's past games. But Calvert-Lewin has been getting into the positions more than Ekitike has in order to get a higher expected goal involvement. And also, he's a decent finisher. He's been slotting away his chances. So even though he's been averaging out a lower kind of points per 90 minutes than Ekitike, his points per million is higher to just demonstrate how much of a bargain Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going forwards. So the question of should we be getting Ekitike in our team, for me, is yes, if you can afford him. If you can't afford him, then Dominic Calvert-Lewin is an incredible option going forwards with Sunderland, Liverpool, Manchester United and Newcastle. And remember, yes, these may look like difficult fixtures, but they haven't been amazing at keeping clean sheets now, have they? So looking at this table, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. So there we have it, an interesting discussion. This has certainly helped me breaking this down to make a decision on what I want to do going forward for my team. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. This has been FPL Sucks. I appreciate you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.